Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. I have another channel on astrology and the Facebook page with prophetic writings where I wrote 4 years prophetic writings about the same topic, about spiritual fighting. Now, in this video, first of all, actually, I took a break for a month, partly because I didn't have a memory card to make videos. And partly because of my own spiritual fighting. And as I explained in another video before, sometimes it's important to take a break because unfortunately these individuals, 3D creatures, doppelgangers and attackers, gang stalking and so on, they are putting strings, they are making a lot of curses, a lot of black magic, witchcrafts and so on me, on my channel, on my work, on my voice, on my message, on you, the audience who's listening or commenting and so on. This is why I don't encourage anyone to engage with anyone else in comment section, because they're trolling, and even if they seem to be friendly, mostly what they aim is to create strings and use the audience against me, or use my energy against the audience and so on. Now, this is what they do. This will not stop us. Okay, so that's a different story. The only reason why I'm mentioning it is so you will know how to protect yourself. I'm not mentioning it so you get scared or don't listen to the message or something like this. I'm just mentioning it so you will know how to protect yourself. Okay, let's move on. So it's always difficult for me when I come back after a break because I do constant spiritual fighting, and so during the break I discover a lot of things, and then it's difficult to come back and to report on everything. I lumped together a few different topics which I encountered in my recent past spiritual fighting, and which seem important to me at this point in time. So I'm gonna pick up with the topic of the last video, where I was talking about attacks of murder, of killing, of death, when basically they decide to take you out. And I mentioned there are only 2 circumstances. Now I will expand in this video. And the main message is that there are 5 different circumstances in which all of these convents and religious spirituality organizations and church, and all of them together, because they work together essentially. So even if the attack comes from one, they are all working together against spiritual elevation. So there are 5 circumstances in which they decide to take you out. One of them is if you elevate, as I said in the previous video, if you elevate too much and you become a threat, namely that you start discovering what they've done, you start discovering how to fight, you start talking to other people, or even if you do it just for yourself, still you are a danger to them, because you become an example for others, because you learn things, because each and every fucking thing, single thing that you learn and you break bondage on, they stand to get karma for what they've done. Okay, so because of this, so elevation for them is very important. So they treat this very seriously. So if you don't fall and you stay in your light and you fight, then even if you don't do it consciously, you must understand this. Even if sometimes you break bondage by who you are, okay, by your values. So you reject proposals of temptation and darkness by who you are, without conscious spiritual fighting, knowing exactly what you're rejecting, who's targeting you, and so on and so forth. We've all been doing that throughout our entire life. Even so, you become a danger to them. And for this reason, they will start then launching smearing campaigns of denigration and slander, so you won't be credible, so nobody will listen to you on one hand, and on another hand, so you will be discouraged to go on that path and to continue to fight or to continue to tell others. So you'll get scared and panicked because you see people turning against you and you don't understand why, and so on. So elevation is one circumstance in which, and ultimately they start attacking you basically to take you out, to kill you, if you're too strong or if you insist on going on that path. So it's elevation and walking in light. It's one circumstance in which they decide to eliminate you, to kill you. Another one, if you have been part of them and you decide to leave for the same reason, because you know information which is dangerous to them, and because there's a danger that others might follow you. So again, for the same reasons, they will take out, they will kill individuals who decide to leave. Then there's another circumstance, people that are collateral damage. And this is something that I discovered in my recent spiritual fighting. Namely that at some point, if somebody fights, you know, basically karma is being delivered to them. And they know, because they know what they've done, and they've done it consciously, and they have much more awareness of what is coming than many times than we do, the ones who do the spiritual fighting, because they know what they've done. So they know they stole my house. They know that if I start fighting for my house and I start claiming justice, judgment, and punishment, and I say that I want my house back, then if I get my house back, when I get my house back, karma is being delivered to them, and they know that. So for this reason, they will try to take you out, the one who's doing the spiritual fighting, me in this case. But if they cannot take you out, they will literally, and I have seen this to my shock, they will literally recruit new people who are not aware of what was done before them and who don't know what kind of karma is coming. And they create situations in which they link that person to your karma and they transfer karma to them. So literally they recruit people to push them under the bus, like sort of say. Some of them might be innocent, and I've seen this in my spiritual fighting. Some of them might be innocent. They just don't know what was done in that organization before they joined. They just joined. They think it's maybe such a rare chance, because they will make sure that they will make a proposal to that individual, so it will sound very tempting, yeah. And they basically only recruit that individual in order to sacrifice him. And they will give that individual some sort of assignment to be involved with you in one way or another, and with a circumstance which stands to deliver karma for. So that individual will take the karma. And even if they don't involve that individual, I have seen another case where basically they just recruited a new person who was standing in light, and then they literally, because karma was being delivered for something that was done against me, they literally made sacrifice ritual against that individual, and they said, because karma is being delivered to our convent, for this, because the dark force comes to collect, we sacrifice this individual to die for this. And not only they do the sacrifice ritual on that individual, but they actually carry out the murder, and they state in ceremonial ritual that that individual has been sacrificed for that force which basically was used in order to do a certain damage to me, or certain stealing certain things from me. Basically, they literally make the sacrifice ritual and they kill the individual, and then they do a ceremony in which they offer that individual's life to that force. I was in shock when I noticed this. So consciously they knew they were going to pay for this, and they gathered together and they decided, you know what, let's find a stupid person to sacrifice for this. And they literally just recruited an individual to kill him for this purpose. So they get away. There was no time for them to transfer the karma anymore, because in my spiritual fighting, I rolled back that dark force which was involved to the extent to which it was at the culmination point, and that force needed a death, basically. Needed a death, because this was what was done against me. So it was not enough time for them to transfer the karma and launch a new karmic cycle upon that individual who they recruited. There was basically the bottom line was that somebody needed to die. That was the payback because of what they've done, because they tried to kill me and they couldn't succeed, and the dark force basically just was there to collect. So this is another circumstance in which basically they inflict death on people. Yeah. And another one, number 4, is they will do these death attacks, but also many other attacks of slander and denigration and many other attacks in order to harm the person who's feeding on you. So let me explain this. Contracts made on you basically feed a number of people, your doppelgangers or higher level individuals who feed on you. They are in public positions because they feed on your light. Yeah. Now there are fights among doppelgangers. This is a mafia system. There are fights against, especially politicians. You know, there are fights against one another in political realm between different individuals at higher ranking. So if one individual number 1, for example, is fighting against individual number 2, and he knows individual number 2 is in a very high position because he's feeding on me, for example, and because of my divine rights, he gets access to very high level ranking, that individual basically says, okay, let's destroy her, and if we make her fall, he automatically will fall. He automatically will fall as well. I don't need to be fighting my counterpart in political realm. I need to destroy those on whom he's feeding, so he would get such a high ranking. So they will destroy you, also like a collateral damage, basically, just because they want to draw down, to push down the individual who's feeding on you. So you become a victim in number of ways. One, because somebody is feeding on you without your acceptance, but also because they have fights among themselves and they need, they want to basically to destroy the other one. So they're too coward to put up a fight with that one. So they figure, let's destroy the one who's feeding him to make sure that we draw him back. Yeah. So this is the number 4 situation. A different type of collateral damage, in which you become many times a target of many groups, different groups, and if you don't understand how it functions, it's very puzzling. Why is everybody attacking you? But many times it has to do with a war between themselves, between different camps, for example, in political realm, it's very obvious because it's between different political parties. Yeah. Also, if it's an institutional, public institutional bondage which is feeding on you, for example, you have different institutions who are fighting against CIA and FBI, for example. So if they if they're in a war with each other or a conflict on a topic, they will basically attack the one who gives light to the other one to make sure that they won't start a civil war in the United States for this. But they will destroy all of those employees of the other ones who are actually feeding them with light. Do you see how stupid this is? Anyhow. Okay, so this is the 4th one. And the 5th one, I think is, to me, it was a very important discovery. And I will expand a little bit more on it because it's more important. Now, they will try to kill you when you reach the end of the situational karmic cycle. And here I will explain a little bit more what this means. This has been a topic about which I have been asking for a very long time. I had only bits and parts of this answer, but I never had the clear vision of the entire picture. And I kept asking, and finally I got the answer. Now, what happens? What's a situational karmic cycle? And this is very important. Basically, it's the generational curse. How does the generational curse function? And this is a very important detailation of the generational curse, which I haven't seen anywhere. And I think actually God has told me that I'm the first one to learn about it directly from God. Namely, generational karmic cycle begins, it's 7 by 7, 49 years. Yeah, so 7 times 7 karmic cycles, and it ends at 49. It is created by ritual of crucifixion and is done at a very early age, obviously, before 7 years, before you reach 7 years. It is being done. You must understand that the crucifixion doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be part of the ritual itself, although it does happen that individuals are part of the ritualic ceremony, but it doesn't have to be. It can be that a doppelganger plays your role, impersonates you, and this crucifixion is being carried out by voodoo, sympathetic magic. So they do that on that individual only impersonates you, but the consequences of that ritual are directed at you, because it's your identity and your name that is being signed on the altar. Okay, so they do this before 7 years, before you reach 7 years, and it perpetuates 7 cycles of 7 years. So this breaks when you reach at 49 years old. Yeah, they will obviously, if you walk in light and you keep breaking bondage and you don't fall, they will try to kill you when you reach 49 years old, or when you reach the 7 by 7. So 7 cycles of 7 years. Whenever that happens for you, basically they will try to kill you. Why? Because that means you break generational curse on your lineage. So it's not just you. You break a generational curse. That means for your whole lineage. You have the soul lineage, you have the blood lineage that you free. So you free those alive, but also those that already passed on. So it's a huge release. It's a huge release of darkness that they have been created. So basically, imagine, is their work for so many years. So many individuals have been feeding on all your lineage, from your blood, from your soul lineage, and so on. So this is huge blow to them. It's huge failure to them if you succeed to stay in light and do the spiritual fighting. Now, what does this mean? This is why God showed to me, because I was very unhappy, and I kept telling God, I said, this is all your fault because you had survival mode for so long. Why you didn't tell me for so long all of these things? God kept saying, that it was survival mode, and that you needed to stay alive. And now I understand why, because there was a specific time when, so if God would have showed me when I was 20 years old, then I still had many years to go until 49. And it was very difficult to stay alive once you actually start fighting consciously, because they essentially try to kill you if you do that. So this is why God is keeping a survival mode for a very long time for many of us, because He wants you to reach the point of the end of these 7 by 7, 49 years. So you can actually, when you do the spiritual fighting consciously, so you can break the generational curse. And also, so your spiritual fighting will be for a brief period of time on conscious level, and you start integrating, because obviously when you do that, they will start attacks to kill you. I mean, I have been reviewing my life, and I have noticed that conscious and targeted attacks for death had started against me when my last karmic cycle began in 2014. So those were the last 7 years, and they were like, okay, we need to kill her now because she doesn't fall and she's rich as big. Why? Because when these 49 years come to be, when you reach the end of your generational curse, the veil is lifting. So you start seeing the veil is lifting, and obviously your choices will be more and more conscious. You gradually, God is showing to you what is going on and is giving you options how to fight. So everything basically is related to a timing of a process of rolling back dark forces which are involved in creating this, a process of reaching the end of the generational curse and the situational karmic cycle, again, which is 49 years, 7 times 7 years, because this is how many years a karmic cycle has, 7 years. So you have 7 karmic cycles of 7 times, which is 49 years, right? So everything is related to a timing, related to a process which is unfolding unbeknownst to you. Yeah. So at the end of this period, the veil is lifting, and you start seeing things, and God is guiding you already, is preparing you, because He knows that you will enter into a period of time when death attacks at you will be more often and stronger, because they are panicked. Also, all other attacks of slander, of denigration, start to become more and more aggressive for the same reason, because they don't want anybody to believe you, and they don't want anybody to help you in making justice for yourself. And they want you to be desperate and to give up, basically. It's very simple. It's a psychological word, and so on. When you reach this period of time, 49 years of generational curse, again, the veil is lifting, and you enter the dark night of the soul. Basically, let me explain this as well. The dark night of the soul is not meant to be like this. Basically, what God meant by this, it's integration of subconscious and conscious level, because you start seeing things and you start the veil lifting. Then that means you end the separation between the subconscious and the conscious, and you start integrating the two. You learn what was done on your subconscious level and you start healing it, right? But it becomes dark night of the soul, because you have to face, on one hand, all the dark forces which are attached to the all the attacks and all the bondages on your subconscious level, which you now start seeing. Yeah, so that is very painful and dramatic, obviously, and it's hurtful, because you learn about a lot of betrayals. So it's, on one hand, the hurt they already created on your subconscious level, but then it's also the hurt of learning about how many betrayals have been, and how many contracts and how many people that you trusted betrayed you, and so on. So it's difficult to handle that kind of integration, and you need to focus on your healing in order to integrate. But it's dark night of the soul not only because of this, it's also because the darkness attacks on you intensify, particularly because you're healing and you're integrating and you're breaking the bondage and you're breaking the generational curse. Yeah, which again, it's a huge transmutation from your blood lineage and your soul lineage and so on. So it's huge. It's huge transmutation, which generates a huge energy upgrade on Earth. Yeah. So again, there are many different dimensions from which you encounter darkness, and this is why it becomes dark night of the soul. It is not meant to be dark night of the soul. It can be a very peaceful healing, although painful, but peaceful, if they would leave you alone. But they don't. They are the ones who make it dark night of the soul, because they start making new sacrifices on you. They start making new attacks on you to stop you from integrating and healing. Yeah. So I hope I made myself clear. Now, all of this, I explained, this is bottom line about generational curse, about the situational karmic cycle, and essentially I explained already, it's 7 by 7, 49 years, and by the end of it, if you walk in your light, then you basically break all of this, which is a huge transmutation of darkness, and it's a huge energy upgrade for the entire earth, but also for your lineage, for your soul lineage, for your blood lineage, and for everyone around you. Yeah. Okay. Now, how they carry out this, all of these generational curses, all of these bondages, how they carry out all of this, basically is, I explained in another video, but I will emphasize it more now, by they themselves elevating lower level entities, elevating them to power, to a level of power through worship and through sacrifice. So they create these sacrifices on us to feed dark entities which are at a very low level. Those entities don't have power normally. Those entities are not meant to be engaging in spiritual fighting because they are not elevated enough. Even darkness has ranks, just like the light. And they are not elevated enough in order to understand the astral rules of fighting, of engaging, rules of engagement, spiritual fighting. Yeah. So they don't understand this. They are not actually, God has shown to me some forces which is the normal force which they should have, and what type of power they achieve through these individuals on purpose worshipping these forces and feeding them through sacrifice rituals on us. They do this because these entities don't have intellectual capacity to understand the rules of engagement in spiritual fighting. Yeah. And they transform lower level entities into deities level type of power. But again, it is done through occult practice of sacrifice and worship and incantation and so on. Yeah, which I explained in another video. So they do all of this basically in order to redesign the rules and the reality according to whatever desires they have. Yeah. And this is the 3D. As I explained in another video, you can take an example, the separatist movements in different countries, like you have Transnistria in Moldova, or you have Chechnya, or some other situations on earth, where basically a group of people, they decide we don't want to be part of this country, we don't like God, we don't like his rules, we don't like the type of level of power we have, we want to be, you know, and literally they take over a territory and the soul and individuals on that territory, and they create new rules, they have a new ranking according to whatever they decide, and they fight against the central government. This is what 3D is, basically. And they use these lower level dark entities in order to be supported in this, and the sacrifice ritual on individuals. Now, this is not God's will, because this is something that annoys me a lot when I keep hearing, especially spiritualists in general, saying that, you know, you went through all of this hardship, it was fate. I noted here what they say. It was fated so you can reach this high. It was God's will so you can elevate. It helped you to elevate because you have put up spiritual fighting. This is not correct. It is not God's will that things will happen this way. It is not God's will that you go through this. The astral is supposed to be a realm of respect, and it is not God's will that you have to go through this to receive what it was yours as divine rights. It is not God's will. It is something that they create through these spiritual ceremonies, ritual ceremonies of sacrificing. This is very wrong perception to keep saying that this was fated. It was not fated. You can learn spirituality peacefully. You don't have to be engaging in this. You are doing a lot of harm by feeding this narrative, because literally you're giving them legitimacy for the harm they're doing to you. And this is not God's will. I must emphasize this. It is not God's will, and nobody from divine realm wants you to go through hell in order to reach a certain level of elevation. You must understand this. Now, I want to talk about, at the end of this video, I talk about the sacrifice ritual in itself, because it's very important. So the sacrifice ritual, literally, there are many types of sacrifice rituals, but I will talk about this one, which refers to generational curses and situational karma cycles and so on. Literally, it's a ritual of crucifixion. Okay, literally, just like the crucifixion of Jesus. So what I will have to say the following. Literally, it does, as I said before, it doesn't have to happen to you physically. Somebody can impersonate you, and they can use voodoo and sympathetic magic in order to transfer all of those symptoms on you. Yeah, so it doesn't have to happen to you. Crucifixion can happen in astral, on your spirit. Yeah, it doesn't have to happen on your body, even though some choose to do that as well. But this is important to understand. Initially, I will have to say this. I noted about this a little bit because I know it's going to be triggering to some people. Why they chose, because I had this question. I said this before. Jesus is my spiritual guardian, divine realm, and I asked always God about this, because it was very troublesome to me. Why you allow this? Why you allow this? And God showed me, I did not allow this. Didn't happen. This is a lie. This is a sacrifice ritual which was done on Jesus, just like it's done on all of us, only in astral, only in spiritual, on spiritual level, not on physical level. It was done basically on spiritual level. Jesus elevated, yeah, Jesus elevated when through it, just like all of us go through these crucifixion rituals without knowing about it, because God knows you're innocent, and God keeps you alive as long as you're innocent, yeah. Basically, Jesus just elevated, went through it, broke the bondage, and he got a new assignment, a new embodiment. He moved on. Now, what we know from the church to be the ritual of sacrifice of Jesus during each liturgy, which is done in church to this day, so you will take communion and all of this. This is not, all of it is a lie. And they basically used a lie, a narrative which they created, only in order to force people to take part in blood ritual. That is a blood ritual. The liturgy and the crucifixion of Jesus in liturgy, it's a blood ritual of witchcraft, which is done by church. And they created the narrative of Jesus being crucified only in order to convince individuals that crucifixion it's a sacrifice which basically Jesus took upon himself, and God allowed it, so they would so through his death it will be erased, the sins of others. But think about it. This is what they do to you. They sacrifice you in order for their sins, for their criminal acts to be erased. Namely, what it means, they transfer the karma to you, basically. That is what it means. They transfer the karma to you. I actually discovered through my recent fighting that there are many individuals who either adopt children or they make children in order to sacrifice. So all that are part of the convent, they know they must have children, sacrifice them at an early age, so this shad of 3D will be carried on. This is why the danger of you breaking this bondage is so threatening to them, because they survive. 3D continues to exist because of these sacrifices. They feed those forces through sacrifices. If this stops, because many of them, for example, God told me, they don't have right to create children because they've done too much harm, and they adopt children and sacrifice those. Yeah, because they need to bring sacrifices. They sacrifice family members, neighbors, colleagues, everyone, because they need. This is a requirement. This is how they get into these convents, and this is how they elevate within the convents. Many of them are fooled that if you do this, you get protection from the convent. Otherwise, you will be attacked. So basically, they are black. They attack people, and then they threaten them. If you don't join us and don't bring sacrifices, we will send gang stalking to you. So many individuals, many nuances of guilty people. Many of them, God has shown me that some of them are just afraid, basically, and then they join them to fit in, to so-called have protection, but it's not protection, it's falling, just becoming one of them. Yeah. Anyhow, so again, a crucifixion. This is the sacrifice ritual which is being done in order to create these generational curses and these situational karmic cycles. Yeah, and again, it can be done in. It has been done in astral. For me, I can tell you for sure that I have seen with my own eyes in spiritual realm sacrifices rituals fully. In 2017, God has shown to me this done on different individuals in 2017, and I couldn't understand then exactly what it meant, but I was reaching close to the end of the situational karmic cycle and the breaking of generational curse on my lineage. So God was preparing for that time, and because already there were death attacks on me since 2014, and God felt like I need to start learning, and I started, basically the veil was lifting, and I started seeing in astral certain things. Yeah. So I have seen individuals sacrifice, and I have seen individuals creating my sacrifice ritual, or for me, in 2017, in September 2017. Yeah, so I have seen this with my eyes, how they created that on me. So it's literally a crucifixion, exactly like you see in movies that they created for Jesus, but it's in astral, so you feel it in your energy body, you feel it on your spirit. Yeah, but even if you're not physically present there, and it has number of consequences because a specific type of forces come after you once this is done. Yeah, and I asked God why they used the cross, and do we still wear the cross now? Because I don't understand all of this. And this, when God has shown to me in 2019 that Jesus was not crucified and he did not die, and that he moved on actually and continued his life with a different assignment and a different embodiment in a different region, it was a huge shock to me. I actually have a prophetic writing on my Facebook page. Please go back and read that because I explained there more in detail. I was very puzzled and I was shocked because I took communion for so many years in my life and didn't know all of this, of course. And of course, I asked Jesus, you know, at the time in 2019, then, why did you come to me? Because I know it was you at each communion. Why did you come to me then, if this is a blood ritual? And Jesus showed me that, of course, in divine realm, they know if you're innocent. Of course, my preparation for communion, I was doing very thorough preparation for communion. And Jesus told me, I came because of your faith. I came because of your faith. I couldn't understand what it meant. It took time to understand. And literally, Jesus showed me, first of all, the level of preparation you were doing for the communion was already transferring lots of darkness which was sent to you. You were already a lot present in mystic power, and therefore, by that, you already had a chance to see me. And you were deeply, firmly convinced that you will meet me at communion. So because of your deep faith that you will meet me, in front of the altar when you take communion, this is why I came. And it wasn't like I came. Jesus said, this is why you could see me. Because I was there, but others who were taking communion couldn't see me. Because they were doing the same level of preparation. Because they didn't have the faith you had. And because of this, although that was a ritual, we know that who's innocent and who has pure intentions. You came to that ritual to meet me. And although that was a satanic ritual of witchcraft and sacrifice, your faith was stronger than what they were doing. And because of that, you were able to see me. But all of the rest, what was happening around you, that is a witchcraft ritual. Yeah. So I just gave you this explanation because I know for me, it was a shock. So whoever took communion in church, I know they will have the same question like me. I was like, what the fuck? I went there to meet Jesus and God, and they made me part of these rituals. And so this is the explanation for everyone who's been through communion. So you will know that, of course, the divine realm knows when you have pure intention and pure heart, they will not judge you for something that you're innocent of. Okay, so the crucifixion again is, and for Jesus, it didn't happen in 3D. He actually moved on. He lived, he had the life after that. They only created this fake narrative in order to convince people saying to me now, to push them into obedience and to create for them the illusion that somebody is fighting in their place, that they can do sins and just communion will erase everything. But mostly because this ritual gave power to priests to take confession from people. And they interfere between the connection between the human and God. Because the human didn't tend to have a direct dialogue with God anymore. This is why the mystic prayer is important. This is what is the mystic prayer. Direct dialogue with God. Yeah. So, because of creating all of this narrative about communion and so on, and creating the blood sacrifice and forcing us to be part of that, basically he pushed humans into obedience. They nullify their interest in spiritual fighting and their interest in direct dialogue with God. Yeah, so they literally assumed powers which they never had and which were not real. You know. Okay, so this is about crucifixion. You need to know this. This is how they do the sacrifice ritual. Yeah, and ask God. So what am I doing now? Am I wearing the cross? Why they use the cross? You know, and God has shown to me cross. Before of all of this narrative about communion, church, crucifixion, and all of this has been a symbol of abundance and direct cooperation between human and divine realm. Basically, it was divine protection. The cross was the sign of divine protection. This is why they used the cross in the sacrifice ritual, you know, because they wanted to sacrifice the concept of divine protection. So individuals won't have divine protection. And you can see that God has shown to me one of the most well-known symbols is the scarecrow, which is put in fields. It has been put there in order to protect against evil spirits. And that is a sign of divine protection. And it connects basically with the divine, and you literally require protection for crops, God says, for your crops, in order to have abundance. Yeah, this is what it used to be during the Druids' time. Yeah, this is where you found the cross. It was a sign of abundance, and they included that in the crucifixion sacrifice ritual in order to sacrifice the connection between the human and the divine, in order to sacrifice the abundance which comes out of the cooperation between human and divine, in order to sacrifice the abundance of human, which is basically the abundance itself is part of the divine rights of the individual. Yeah, so this is about crucifixion and about situational like us, about generation curses and so on. I'm going to stop here because it's way too much. It's already 45 minutes. Now, I asked God what he wants me to say to the ones who we now so famously call karmics at the end of this message. And God basically said, karmics, essentially, I explained in other videos what karmics mean. Individuals who choose to stay in these stupid rituals and be involved in this 3D matrix. Now, God has shown to me to say that a situational karmic cycle took place in 2021. Yeah, we are still closing up at this point that situational cycle. You know, as I explained, we are closing up now the part of the judgment, punishment, redemption, and so on. Have been given all chances to redeem and so on. Many chose not to, but God has shown to me to tell that this is the most important opportunity present, because when a situational karmic cycle comes, even if you have been on the wrong side for a very long time, you stand the chance to benefit of the how do you say this, of the divine intervention done for those who carried on the fight and they broke that situational karmic cycle. So it's portal opened of divine justice. Now, you have to understand that those of us who come from divine, we come here in order to bring divine justice, in order to help our souls from our lineage to elevate souls which were, spirits which were trapped in 3D and so on, to break bondage, to share light and so on. Now, this is the most important opportunity that you stand to receive, even if you didn't carry on the fight, because this is a portal of divine justice being made. So, God has shown to me actually to say to them, they need to claim justice, judgment, punishment, because when they do this, many of the darkness, so many of the choices they made, some of the choices they made, were, God corrects me, some, not many, some of the choices they made, consequences of bondages created on their lineage, on predecessors, not on them. So they inherited that. Of course, they came into 3D in order to fight it. So normally they should have been well equipped to do that. However, they chose to go with the dark side. Now, this is when you claim justice, judgment, and punishment. God will make justice, first of all, for what is your and what is inherited, for the conscious wrong choices, goes to bad choices out of error of judgment, out of being tricked, out of being, some of the situations, for example, I have seen this. Some individuals were drugged. You can be drugged in spiritual realm, or you can be drugged in 3D. Putting something in your drink, in your food, in something, you know. So I've seen this on many, actually. I explained this in one of the spiritual writings, one of the prophetic writings, that for a very long time, I have received divine guidance from my ancestors to not touch food or drink. Like, for example, particularly when I was at office party, you know, like somebody had a celebration, was in the office, brought some food, drinks, and people were celebrating some people or some situation or something. I would receive divine guidance clearly. Don't touch food. Other times they would say, don't touch any drinks. Sometimes they would say, don't touch anything. Don't eat, don't drink, don't touch anything. Sometimes there were situations in which certain individuals would light up cigarettes, even electronic cigarettes specifically, and literally I would see my ancestors and they would say, get out of here, because that is a drug which they are smoking, and everybody that's in the room, basically it impacts on your discernment and energetic awareness in order to make attachments on you. So this is very important. So at the time when I was receiving this guidance, I didn't know any of this. It was way before I started consciously spiritual fighting. I have received guidance throughout my entire life, but for most of my life, I did not know the reasoning behind it. I didn't understand why. I just knew it comes from divine, and I followed it. So many people basically drugged like this. So when you claim justice, judgment, and punishment, you stand a chance that even if you didn't fight for the entire period of time and you made wrong choices, still you benefit of the portal that is being opened of divine justice, of the elevation which is being created, because you have energy upgrade happening at that point in time, which will help you carry on your spiritual fighting. Once punishment starts for everyone, there will be way too much darkness and will be much more harder to do the spiritual fighting on your own. This is a very specific moment in time when you can actually benefit of this opportunity to elevate. This is for the karmics. If you don't, I also asked this, if you don't, I said what to tell them if they don't, because I don't believe they will. Guy upset me. He said you should believe in them. I shouldn't. I should just listen. So if they don't, what happens is that all of the darkness they take upon themselves, just because they refuse to make a decision or refuse to make the right decision, refuse to claim justice, judgment, and punishment, being afraid of justice because they feel guilty, all that darkness, it impregnates in your DNA. And I have seen individuals who are from the same soul lineage as me, but they have so much DNA alteration that in astral you cannot distinguish them as being from your lineage anymore. Okay, so I'm gonna end it here. If karmics choose not to, then they must know that their DNA will be altered, because it's a free will choice not to do what you've been told repeatedly to do. Yeah, so they already know by now that this is the right thing to do if you want to meet God, if you want to go back home to God, integrated and elevated, if you want to do redemption. Now, most of them refuse to do it, so what to do? Yeah, okay. Anyhow, yeah. Anyhow, this is what I had to say. This is 52 minutes. This is too long already. I will stop it here. I hope all the information I gave you will provide for you opportunity to actually find new solutions, to make choices, the right choices easier. I hope it will give you courage. It will give you strength. I hope you take advantage of this time of great opportunity for everyone involved. I'm going to end it here. And as always, of course, if you have any questions, write in the comments. I don't encourage you reading other comments or engaging with them, because many of them are trolls. But if you do have a legitimate question, please post a comment. I answer all questions, regardless where they come from, even from the trolls, because maybe somebody else can use the information. I don't answer to them. I answer because any question that is asked deserves an answer. And of course, again, you have my Facebook page where you will find prophetic writings, very useful. I go in depth there. And well, if you want to make a donation, you have my PayPal account, and I thank you in advance for that.